90. This is the Meridian Wealth Management Countdown to Tip-Off Show on the home of Arizona men's basketball. Wildcats Radio 1290.
It inbounds to Tops, and he has it stolen away. Here's Ballo all the way down, slam it home with two hands.
Showing shades of Mr. Christian Coloco was Umar Ballo. Tommy Lloyd finding centers that can defend, steal, and take the ball to the other end and dunk it. Now, I did mention that when Christian Coloco did that, it was against ASU in a rivalry game. But still, for Umar Ballo to be able to kind of recreate that move and get a dunk against Morgan State to start the season, not a bad thing at all. Welcome to the Meridian Wealth Management Arizona Tip-Off Show. I'm David Kelly, joined by J.W. Madden. Kelvin Efon will be with us as well today. It is Arizona and Duke. It doesn't get any better than this. The number 2 ranked Blue Devils welcoming in the number 12 Arizona Wildcats to the legendary and historic Cameron Indoor Stadium. Tip-off is just 4 hours away. We've got you for the next 3. As we get you set for this one today, we want to hear from you. How excited are you about today? We haven't had a lot of home and homes like this, early season road games like this in a long time. Yeah, Arizona went to Michigan a few years ago, but that was a little bit later in the preseason. It wasn't game 2, which is what we've got today. Arizona went to Alabama a few years ago, but this is a whole lot different. Going into Cameron Indoor Stadium to not only face one of the better teams on the court in the country this year, but to face one of the better programs in this sport over the course of the last 30 years, the Duke Blue Devils. You've got 2 legendary programs going in 2 new directions with 2 young coaches. Tommy Lloyd here on the Arizona Wildcats side, John Shire on the other side of the Duke Blue Devils, both young men, or I probably shouldn't call them young men because they're not like in their 20s.
They're younger than you. That's
early 30s, but both young head coaches.
Yes.
That's a better way to phrase that. Taking over for absolute legends, Mike Krzyzewski, down at Duke, and of course, Tommy Lloyd not directly taking over for Lute Olson, but the program Lute Olson built here, and Sean Miller before him, both coaches that were able to take the Arizona Wildcats program deep into the postseason. 4 Final Fours for Lute Olson, and of course, 2 Elite Eights, or 3 Elite Eights, I should say, for Sean Miller. Tommy Lloyd's still trying to get to that point in his 3rd year with this particular program. All right, lots in store for you today. We're going to talk about the Morgan State game on Monday night. The Wildcats won that one fairly easily, 122-54. The Duke Blue Devils opened up against Dartmouth.
smart kids.
From the Ivy League, they too got a pretty easy win in their opener, so both teams tuning up for this one. We'll preview that game for you as well. Let's start, though, with what happened against Morgan State. You heard that dunk there by Omar Ballo and Tommy Lloyd. How about your big man and getting a chance to get out in the open floor?
It was good. I mean, I thought he gathered himself, and collected himself. Whenever, you see a big guy out in transition like that, sometimes you take a breath just because, they're putting their body in a position it doesn't get into very often. And, I even mentioned that to Phillip when he tried that over the top pass to Krivas. It's just those guys just don't get those repetitions like other guys do. So you kind of take a little bit of a deep breath and hope for the best. So, I'm glad both of those turned out okay for us.
Okay, and that nobody got hurt, J-Dub.
It's very true. I mean, you mentioned Coloco, Ballo. However, that's traditionally not a position you might see a center in. Victor Wembanyama, some other guys in the game were trying to change that perception, trying to be bigger ball handlers. But at this level, DK, a lot of guys who are playing the center position don't tend, as Coach said right there, to have in-game opportunities to handle the ball in the open court. So it's not a position that they have a lot of repetitions on. Just glad that, he made it down and everybody was okay. The Krivas pass, a little different. You don't want to lead. What that was Borovic gave him the ball where he had to put at least 2 dribbles down before he got to the cup in the open court. Maybe not what you want to do with the 7'2" guy in his first home game.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, I mentioned we want to hear from you today. 520-848-1290 is the number to get in on the program. 520-848-1290. You can call us at that number. You can text us at that number. As always, much like we do with our afternoon show here on Wildcats Radio 1290, we are streaming on a number of platforms. You can watch today's pregame show. We are on Facebook Live. We are on YouTube. We are on Twitch. You can find us on all 3 of those platforms at Wildcats Radio 1290. You can also watch the show on Twitter at Wildcats 1290. So those are all the places. We've got the video stream up and going. You can listen to this pregame show, obviously on the radio, AM 1290, but you can also listen to it through a number of streaming services. Alexa, just say, Alexa, put on Wildcats 1290. Alexa will do that. You can whisper to Alexa, as we found out in the last week or so, and she'll still put on 1290 for
First,
you.
she'll whisper back at you, and then she'll put it on. Yeah.
Absolutely. She'll whisper back at you before she does that. And, of course, our website is at wildcatsradio1290.com, and we are also available on the iHeartRadio app. Again, 520-848-1290 is the number. We want to hear from you on this big game today between Arizona and Duke. One of the things that kind of stood out in the game the other night against the Morgan State Bears, beside the fact that the Wildcats scored 122 points, which is the most points an Arizona men's basketball team has scored in a game this century. Okay, this century, going all the way back to 2000, no Arizona Wildcats basketball team had ever scored 122 points in a game. This team did it, and they did it only turning the ball over 7 times in the game. This after they turned it over 24 times in their second exhibition game against New Mexico Highlands, and Tommy Lloyd liking the fact that his team was able to take such good care of the basketball in their season opener.
I mean, 7 turnovers is a tremendous number, in a high possession game. And, I think the offensive rebounding was something else we really emphasized. So, if you can, control turnovers and create second opportunities on the offensive glass, that's a pretty, dynamic, combination that's going to allow you to be really efficient on offense. So I was proud of our guys. The message was heard. Last, I think, exhibition game where we had 20-some. And, that's obviously not good enough. So, but that's why you play those exhibition games. You're not looking for perfection. You're looking for opportunities to learn. And so I think I was proud of our guys for learning that lesson.
Yeah, look, we're going to talk a lot this year, DK, about integrating each other into being able to play with each other takes time. And we know that they took the Abu Dhabi trip this summer. That can jumpstart that process a little bit. However, going from 25-plus turnovers down to 7, with this offense, they're going to be moving the ball around. That's what the offense is. The offense is probing, kicking, looking for the open man. And so there's going to be a lot of passes with each possession. 7 turnovers is such a crazy number for a team that passes the ball around so much. Scoring 122 points, 7 turnovers, are really amazing that they're all locked in and focused on making sure that they take care of the ball, because today that's going to be vital.
You're going to need it. You're going to need it in a hostile environment, unlike any that, again, you can't. Cameron Indoor Stadium is a different beast. It's a different beast. There's nothing like it here on the West Coast. I mean, there are some schools that are tough places to go into, but nothing
Maples,
like that.
The old Stanford, back in the 80s and 90s, had a similar feel, where it was a small gym and they would jump up and down and move the stanchions a little bit and that kind of thing. But you're right. I mean, there's nothing compares to that small 9,000 seat gym and those fans, the Cameron Crazies, right on top of the court.
The old Oregon facility also
Sure.
kind of brings to mind that kind of environment, an old school basketball feel. That's what you are getting today in Durham, North Carolina. Duke K-ville, they still call it K-ville, even though Coach K is not there anymore. Where the
not
students
S-ville?
kind of
Not yet.
Yeah, S-ville.
Not yet.
Shireville, not yet. No, where the students camp out intense to be the first in line, to be on the front row for the Cameron Crazies in full effect. And we're going to talk to David Shumate a little bit later. That it's not something that generally happens this early in the year for the Duke University. So that just goes to show you how big a game this is coming up. But again, a big win against Morgan State. We talked about the 7 turnovers. Tommy Lloyd just liked kind of the way that his guys brought effort and energy to that game on Monday night here at McHale Center.
You're trying to establish a standard, and you have a lot of guys who've never worn the Arizona uniform in a real game. So we really want to hammer home what our standards are. And I think for the most part, our guys, check those boxes. I'm looking for effort, I'm looking for intelligence, and I'm looking for unselfishness. And for the most part, I think we had a lot of plays that exemplified that today. I'm more focused on the effort and energy. I thought for the most part, we hit that standard today, and that's something, we really want to establish. But, as our guys know, it's the first chapter in a long book. So you don't get awards for how you play in your first game, and we have a mature group that understands that, and I think we're looking forward to the next game and seeing what we can do.
And the first place that you look for that effort, at least the first place I look for that effort, is at the defensive end of the floor. How are guys defending right out of the gate? And I loved what I saw, especially the perimeter defense. You had bigs jumping out and defending the perimeter. You had the guards, in the opponents in the Morgan State Bears players' faces, defending the perimeter. You're young a little bit in certain spots on the inside, and you may get beat on some of those, but I just liked what I saw in terms of guys being right up in the Morgan State Bears players' faces at the defensive end of the floor.
Oh, yeah, and you mentioned Christian Coloco earlier in this segment, and he may, very well have been the Defensive National Player of the Year, right, a couple of years back. There isn't anybody like that who's going to affect every single shot, right, in the perimeter. I'm sorry, in the interior. However, DK, between the guys that they have, Kylan Boswell might have the strongest hands and quickest hands for that spot and his age that I've ever seen. I mean, he is really a gnat out there, really, really strong on-ball defense. We know what Jaden Bradley has brought over. That's his reputation coming in. You watch him on the court, just a hawk. And then the freshman, KJ, is just a menace out there already. One game into his college career. And I know that a lot of ball handlers in this season are going to have a really hard time getting by those 3 guys. And once they all get on the same page and really understand the switching aspects of what they're trying to do on this defense, that's going to be one of the best perimeter defending and overall defensive teams in the country, but especially in the perimeter. Just the potential for those guys to lock down guards is going to be really, really strong.
All right, what are you looking for in this game tonight? 520-848-1290, 520-848-1290. More of the same of what we saw, a little bit more from your big man, Umar Ballo. What do you want to see from Umar in this ball game? Shot 65% from the floor last year, and what is going to be his future here moving forward as kind of the big leader, the leader of all these younger bigs that are on this roster. Right now, Tommy Lloyd feels like he's got 6 guys that he could put into this starting lineup. We saw, obviously, Pelle Larsson was back. We weren't sure, him coming off that injury, where he was going to be. Would he start? Would he come off the bench? And Tommy started him in that first game and feels like he's got an extra guy now that he can start, depending on how he wants to go with his rotation.
We'll talk about it as a staff, and we'll do what we feel gives us the best chance to win that game. But, I wouldn't use it as an indicator, for final decisions being made. For me, we have 6 starters, and I'm comfortable. You could probably give me 4 combinations, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm good with that. And so we kind of settled in on one tonight, and we'll see what we do moving forward. Some of those other guys off the bench that are kind of, earning their opportunities and learning their way in our program are really good players. And I don't want to sell them short.
Yeah, DK, I just mentioned the guard play, but Pella Larson and Keyshawn Johnson at those forward spots especially. And when they go small, Pella will probably slide into maybe some, a little bit of power forward as well. But those guys, Pella has established himself as one of the better defenders in modern Arizona history. And Keyshawn Johnson comes in, just watch him play. He's a menace on defense as well. Really, really strong body. So, yeah, the guys that Coach Lloyd has to choose from in the rotation, let alone those 6 starters that he's talking about, there's going to be some guys who are going to be able to come in and make a big impact on the game early.
Well, and we saw him at times go with quote, a small ball lineup. You get 3 times, sometimes 4 guards in there with
Kelvin,
KJ Lewis
Ifan
and Colin and
loves it.
Caleb. And
Kelvin Ifan's favorite. He always talks about four guard lineups is what he wants to see on the court every single night.
And that's something that Tommy Lloyd says that you might see a lot this year.
With Henry's injury, it's kind of tilted things in that direction. But it's a style that we've been really comfortable playing. We've done it the last 2 years. It just people forget about it, and we've probably done it a lot more than people realize. So it's something we're really comfortable doing, and we kind of have our plan when we do it, and I think our guys, we kind of installed it, maybe a week or 2 ago, so it's kind of fresh. So we're still learning, but I think it's got a lot of potential.
I think, DK, Henry Vesar is going to be really good. Obviously, he's injured right now, but last year he just wasn't ready. So if you think about Tabelis and Ballo, when those guys either had a nagging injury or foul trouble, they really had to go small. Last year, they were a little bit short on personnel. So that small ball lineup last year had some great moments where they really, really put a lot of pressure. And this year's team is much deeper, especially in the front court. However, Coach Lloyd does have that option. He can really, and it's all dependent on the opponent and what they're trying to do. And so there's going to be moments where you might see, you think about how many bigs, how much size and length there is on this team, but I would not be surprised at all in moments to see 4 guards, three guards, and 2 forwards out on the court, and those guys can really, really put pressure on the offenses especially.
All right, let's tell you what we've got coming up on today's program.
Let's take a look at the Right Way Rundown and see what's coming up on our pregame show. Brought to you by Right Way Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. Do things the right way.
All right, Kelvin Ifan will join us straight ahead for our first look at this one, Arizona versus Duke. You'll hear more from Tommy Lloyd on how this whole home and home came together. Our spot on a cat light today, spotlight on a cat is going to be transfer sophomore guard Jaden Bradley, who comes into this program from the University of Arizona. We'll update you on your scoreboard around the Pac-12. Andre Iguodala has retired from the NBA, but he's not going to be out of work, quote, for long. But we'll hear from Iggy on his decision to step away from the game, our alumni spotlight today. We'll give you your scouting report of the Duke Blue Devils. The voice of Duke Blue Devil basketball, David Shoemate, will join us for that. You will also hear from the head coach of the Blue Devils, John Shire, coming up. Kim Doss is going to join us from AZ Desert Swarm. There is a women's game happening here tonight. For the second straight game night, we have both the men and the women playing. The women are hosting Northern Arizona at McHale Center. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. All of that and more coming up. It is the Meridian Wealth Management Arizona Game Day pregame show, the tip-off show, along with J.W. Madden. I'm David Kelly. You're listening to Wildcats Radio 1290.
This hour of the Meridian Wealth Management pregame show is brought to you by Advanced Auto Care, Crest Insurance Group, Desert Diamond Casinos, First Chiropractic, Frog in Firkin, Kaiser Garage Doors and Gates, Picture Rocks Cooling, Heating, and Plumbing, the Polston Results Team with Keller Williams, Southern Arizona, Royal GMC Buick and Cadillac, Royal Kia, Royal Jaguar Land Rover, the Window Depot.
Driving the lane, dunking on the competition, and playing as a team. These are things we'll see this season watching our Wildcats play basketball. These happen to be the things you'll also find when you buy your next vehicle from O'Reilly Chevrolet. The only difference is at O'Reilly, nobody gets penalized for traveling. Heck, we actually encourage it. See us on Broadway next to Park Place Mall. Call 747-8000 or find new roads at O'Reilly.com, where you can experience our version of a steal. O'Reilly Chevrolet, more than a great price.
O'Reilly Chevrolet. Desperate buyers have created tremendous opportunity for sellers. If you've had the slightest thought of selling your home, it's time to call Sean Poston with the Poston Results team at Keller Williams, Southern Arizona. Why choose the Poston Results team? Past performance, more money in your pocket, over a 65% referral rate, an incredible Poston Results team staff, and most important, communication, because you and your home matter. The Poston Results team. When buy
Pump fake again. Lay it up. Missed no good. There's Keishad with the rebound. Missed the follow. And Borovichin chases it down. To Boswell for three. Bang! There's three more for Kylan Boswell, his third.
Kylan Boswell smooth on opening night for the Arizona Wildcats in that 122-59 win over the Morgan State Beavers. My dad's alma mater coming in here and getting their butts kicked. I don't think he was real happy about that. But let's turn our attention to this major contest today between two top 15 teams. It is Duke and Arizona and Cameron Indoor Stadium. Let's figure out what we've got going on tonight.
Our first look at today's Arizona men's basketball game is brought to you by The Window Depot. Lowest prices and biggest inventory. Shop thewindowdepot.com.
And we bring in the third member of our program, Kelvin Efon, to get his first thoughts on this one. And Kelvin, it does not get any bigger than Arizona and Duke.
Yeah, it doesn't get any bigger than that. I mean, when you're talking about cream of the crop type of teams. Duke has been that blue blood forever, and Arizona has been right there on that cusp. I mean, of basketball blue blood is like right there. So anytime we get the matchup against them, we get a chance to prove that we actually are, we should be one of the blue bloods.
What excites you most just about these two teams getting back together in a home-and-home scenario? Obviously, we've seen games throughout the years. It's mostly been in the one-off tournaments or postseason play or preseason, those types of venues right there. But to have this opportunity now for the Wildcats to go down there this year and for Duke to return the trip here next year, what do you love most about that?
Well, what I love most about that is just that, Coach Lloyd, Coach Duke, they're not running away from competition. These guys understand that to get your guys ready for conference play and the chance to make a run at the NCAA championship, you are going to have to play teams like this. You're going to have to be able to be ready for teams that can, dominate and win. So I just think that these big-time games like this early in the year are just so important to find out who your guys are, who your go-to guys are, who guys that need to step up, and maybe some guys that need to step out.
Let's hear from the head coach of the Arizona Wildcats, Tommy Lloyd, on this renewal of the rivalry between Arizona and Duke.
It's Arizona versus Duke. I mean, I think that's enough said right there. I mean, no matter what happens, hopefully you have two great teams that are going to have an epic early season battle. I think that'd be great for college basketball. But no matter what happens, I don't think there's going to be any postseason awards given out by what happens the second November 10th. So, if you go and play well, it's a great opportunity to really build your resume. If you go and struggle, it's going to be an awesome learning opportunity that I'm sure you're going to be better for it.
Hey, Kelvin, though, if you go into a game like this and you play well, though, what could it potentially do for your season if you go into a venue like this and beat a top-ranked team like a Duke?
Well, the number one thing, the boost to your confidence as a unit. Right now with the transfer portals and different transfer guys coming in, we have guys coming from, European guys and guys coming from Africa as well. So, you're trying to mesh all those guys together. If you can win a game like this in front of that builds those guys' confidence to get them ready for a long season that's ahead. So it's huge playing in these type of games because to me, you can't lose regardless. I mean, you can lose on the scoreboard, but I think you learn so much from it that at the end of the day, it's just more valuable playing these games. And then to get that ranking, that early season ranking like that, to get higher rank, you beat teams like that, you just get put in such a great position with the ranking.
And I want to get your thoughts, Kelvin, on the guards. So break down what you saw for me in game one. We'll start with Caleb Love.
Well, what I saw was, first of all, Caleb Love, man, you talking about an aggressive guy, not necessarily hunting his shots, but being aggressive, looking for his shots. So if he has it, he's definitely going to take it. He's going to drive you to the basket, and he passes the ball to get other guys involved. And again, on the defensive end, I just think he's just a dog. He can guard his position and several other positions. And then next you start, what you talk about, Boswell.
Yeah, Colin Boswell.
Man, when you start talking about Boswell, man, you're talking about a real pit bull, man. I mean, a guy that earned his way with the defense on the defensive side of the ball, earning minutes last year, and now he's really starting to stroke the ball and knock down threes. Real good at running this open offense where he's moving the ball and can play off the ball a little bit.
And it's interesting. I don't want to say that maybe he hasn't quite found his footing, but I thought Jaden Bradley, from what I've seen from him, he is maybe just a little tentative at this point. Still like he's still just kind of trying to feel it out, but I guess maybe that wouldn't necessarily be unusual for a young transfer.
Right. Well, also, you got to remember, he's not necessarily a scorer. He's a basketball player. When I watched him play at Alabama, he's more of a guy that's not really a big scorer. He's defending. He's making the right play, smart with the ball. His length, it just gives people all kind of trouble on that end of the court, real interchangeable on the defensive end. So he's not a guy that's going to wow you with necessarily with his scoring stats, programs, they understand, how to work in and fit in with other great players.
Okay, we're talking to Kelvin Ifan, the captain from 1998, and our U of A basketball analyst. It is the Wildcats and the Duke Blue Devils coming up. Tip off at 5 o'clock. Caleb Love makes his return to Tobacco Road. What are you anticipating from that young man going back into this environment where he's played before? No one else has played really down there, but he's played in this environment. He knows what to expect, and I would imagine that he's chomping at the bit to kind of do some things similar to what he did when he was suiting up in the North Carolina Blue.
Yeah, no, I expect him to play well. I think he averages like 17 inside Cameron, so in 4 games. So he's not a guy that's afraid of that type of competition. He's been on the big stage, so I think he could be a guy that helps keep everybody calm down, because I think early in the game he can make some plays to let the team understand and feel like, we're in this and we have a chance to beat a team like this at their own home. So, yeah, having a guy like Caleb Love, who's experienced that, I think is huge for this team going into Cameron.
And also, Caleb, obviously played there 3 times with the big rival for Duke. However, K-Rock, they also, a lot of Duke fans attribute him as ending Coach K's career, right? Because they played that game in the Final Four, and Caleb Love hit the big shot. So I would imagine he's going to get even more of a warm welcome today from the Cameron Crazies when he comes back in to Durham.
Yeah, I agree with you. But you know what's funny? Look at it like that. I just think he looks at it as just another victory.
Let's hear from the head coach again, Tommy Lloyd, about if he's worried about Caleb Love's return to Cameron Indoor Stadium.
I'm not worried about it. I mean, I think Caleb's pretty tough and tough-minded. Obviously, I know it's gonna probably draw a lot of attention, but he's built for it. And I just know this. I mean, we can go there and play a good basketball game without Caleb playing out of his mind. I mean, Caleb can. That's one of the the gifts I've tried to give him is you don't necessarily need to just blend in here, but you have an opportunity to settle in and let the game come to you a little bit. And I think he'll get more and more comfortable over that. And I mean, every time he's put our uniform on against another team, I think he's played really good and he's been a great teammate.
And, Kevin, we always hear when you get games like this or places where another guy maybe has been before, we always hear, did he give the team any advice? Did he talk to the team about it? Have you been in those instances where you went somewhere where maybe somebody had some intel? And how valuable is that intel to the rest of the team?
Well, yeah, I've been in the situations where, you play at a stadium and you warn your guys and you kind of get them ready for, the fans maybe throwing stuff or, some doing stuff you don't want to mention on the radio. and you just got to get them mentally ready for it, because I think that's the biggest thing that you can do is have their mind right on what to expect from the fans and the atmosphere. I remember we went to Iowa and everybody was talking about the pink locker room. I actually thought they made too much of it. Because I'm like, the locker room can't play, right? Like, I'm more worried about the guys. I'm worried about, some of the big guys over there that's 8 feet tall and 10,000 pounds. So you're more worried about that. But, you tell the guys about it a little bit so they don't be in awe. Like going to Ohio State, we played Ohio State, and the biggest thing was don't be in awe that you're in 100,000, people stadium. Look for something to get an edge. So what I told myself was, this is such a big stadium, they're not even close to the field. I can't feel these people. So, it's just mental.
That's a great way to look at it. I like that right there. Kelvin Ifan, our UVA basketball analyst, joining us. Let's hear one more from Tommy Lloyd on whether Caleb Love has been giving advice to the U of A players about this game.
I'm sure those guys will have those conversations on their own, but I don't really put a bunch of pressure on them to get up and present the scouting report. I mean, that's why we have a lot of guys in our coaching staff. So that's their job, and he might be able to. Maybe we will always listen to our guys. I mean, if they tell us something in a game, or I've played against this guy. I mean, I think that's out of respect for our players. We always listen to what they have to say.
Yeah, interesting. He mentioned the scouting report there, Kelvin. In a big game like this, is there a particular assistant coach that generally gets the scouting report for a big game, or do head coaches generally just spread that around? Like it might be this coach one big game, it might be another assistant coach the next big game.
I was lucky. High school, college, I played for Hall of Fame coaches. Like my high school coach is a Hall of Fame Texas coach, and of course everybody know Coach Olsen. Man, they didn't change what they did. Whatever coach had that scout that game was the coach that had it. I don't remember them switching a certain coach for a certain game, because I think one of the obligations of a coach, and me being a coach now, definitely not on those guys' level, but you want to prepare your guys to move to be a head coach, so you don't take them out of a chance to make that scouting report up about the other team. Now, as a coach, what you do is you go and look at it, and you make sure everything is on there that that is important to make sure that your guys know. But no, you want to keep everything as the same as possible. You don't want your players to see you getting, switching up stuff. Switching up what coach has to scout and switching up how y'all practice and acting all nervous. Like, no, man, I recruited you guys. We play for Arizona. We got Arizona on our chest. Hey, just throw the ball up. Let's go.
Didn't Coach Olsen have Roz and Jesse Evans? They alternated, right, between that so they could focus just on the one game that they were going to scout, right?
Yeah, exactly. If I didn't say that right, but yeah, you had Jesse Evans. You had Phil Johnson and also Coach Roz. They would rotate games of getting the scouts. And again, I as a coach now, I understand that you're getting your assistant coaches ready to be a head coach one day and giving them those responsibilities. So, again, so they can get that knowledge of how to prepare for those type of games.
All right, Kevin, we'll talk to you a little bit later in the show, and as well as get your keys to this one here coming up, the Duke Blue Devils and the Arizona Wildcats. Appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir. Let's go. All
right, Kelvin Ifan is our captain, U of A basketball analyst. We'll get a break in here. I also want to remind you, that is for this particular day, your first look.
That's been our first look at today's Arizona men's basketball game. Brought to you by The Window Depot. Lowest prices and biggest inventory. Shop thewindow.depot.com.
And don't forget, Window Depot also sponsors Arizona's top rebounding performance every night. It's the Window Depot glass cleaner of the game. Might be the Wildcat with the most rebounds. Might be the U of A star with the most impactful boards. We will tell you the Window Depot glass cleaner of the game coming up tonight on the Meridian Wealth Management Arizona Game Day post-game show. All right, coming up, we've got much more on this Meridian Wealth Management tip-off show. We'll give you our spotlight on a cat. That's next. I'm David Kelly with J.W. Madden and Kelvin Ifan. You're listening to Wildcats Radio 1290.
This is the Meridian Wealth Management Countdown and Tip-Off Show on the home of Arizona men's basketball. Wildcats Radio 1290.
When it comes to healthcare, imaging makes all the difference. Don't stand in line or wait for weeks to get that much-needed MRI or X-ray. At Southern Arizona Radiology Associates, we offer multiple exams like MRI, CT, mammograms, and biopsies, serving Sierra Vista and the surrounding communities for over 30 years. With locations in Sierra Vista, Green Valley, and Tucson. Call 520-335-6849. Southern Arizona Radiology Associates. Superior imaging, superior care.
What do you mean, trenchless?
Means no trench.
But it's the sewer line.
And they did it without ruining my yard.
The yard we're standing in?
The very same.
I don't know if I trust that.
I trust that because I trust them.
Them?
Ram Plumbing.
Locally owned and operated Ram Plumbing, offering a comprehensive range of plumbing.
Wildcats Radio 1290.
Rebounds. Mr. Rattray. I think we should just lay out, Don. Started of the 5 recruits 2 years ago. Now has 30 points and 11 rebounds.
He's on the marquee. You said Mr. to me, Mr. to him.
That call does not do that dunk justice.
He had a couple dunks in that game. That rebound dunk where he was like over the top of his head, man.
That was Derek Williams with the famed dunk against Duke. That in the 2011
Kyrie's last
Sweet 16
college basketball game.
Yeah, Arizona just absolutely blew the doors. I mean, blew the doors off of the number 1 seed Duke Blue Devils that day at the Sweet 16 in Anaheim, California, 93-77. And I want to say that they ended up winning by 16. I want to say they were up 30.
Yeah,
in the second half. They were up a lot.
They just played their best game of the year on the most appropriate day to play the best game of the year that day.
32 points that night for Derek Williams. He made 11 of 17. He had 13 rebounds in that game. Momo Jones, 16 points. Solomon Hill had 13 points in that game. Just a fabulous Sweet 16. One of probably the more, I think in terms of Sweet 16 wins here, since I've been here, 2008, that's got to be one of the more memorable ones.
Yeah, and that was a young, Arizona team. Nobody really expected them to show up like that against Duke. Duke was a very good team that year. Kyrie, remember, had sat out half the season, had come back late in the year, only played in the NCAA tournament. That was Kyrie Irving. Everybody knows what he's capable of. They had some really, really, really solid players on that team, but Arizona just put it all together at the best possible time.
Yeah, the starters for Duke that day scored 38 points. And Kyrie Irving off the bench scored 28.
Yeah.
93-77 was the final that day in Anaheim, California. We want to hear from you today, 520-848-1290, 520-848-1290, as we get you set for Duke and Arizona. Tip-off is coming up at 5 o'clock. Right now, though, let's shine a light on one of your Arizona men's basketball players.
Our pregame show Spotlight on a Cat is brought to you by O'Reilly Chevrolet. Get more with O'Reilly Chevrolet.
Today's Spotlight is on transfer sophomore guard Jaden Bradley, 6'3", 200-pounder out of Rochester, New York. Played his freshman season last year at Alabama. And, of course, there was a lot of things going on last year.
A lot of things
at Alabama. Yeah. We joked about the train wreck that New Mexico State was last year. Alabama was darn near the same type of train wreck. So what's going on with the kid that got arrested?
Brandon?
Well, Brandon Miles, was it?
Brandon, no. I got a blank on his last name. Like, he was drafted, I think, number 2 or 3 overall this year. He's playing in the NBA. I heard that they were actually going forward with some kind of litigation. I don't know the details. I just heard that they were waiting, I think, until some time had passed. But that is still an ongoing situation.
Yeah. It was just not a good situation. Actually, Darius Miles, I think, was the one that was indicted for capital murder.
Right
there, yeah.
And it was a matter of who was in the car, whose gun was it, and all that stuff.
Yeah, the other. You're talking about the other player there, Brandon, that was involved with that as well.
Yes,
he was. I think may have delivered the Brandon Miller was his name.
Yes,
Brandon Miller. Yeah. So that's where Jaden was last year, and got out of Dodge. But and you were saying there was also a playing time situation with another popular name in that the Arizona fan base would know about.
Yeah, some of the fans around town might know Javon Quinterly, and he was involved in. He had committed and was coming here and was involved and wrapped up in that FBI investigation with some improper nonsense. Ended up not coming to the U of A and found his way to Alabama last year. And it's interesting because Jaden Bradley was the presumptive starter at the beginning of that season, or at least was going to get the bulk of the minutes, a McDonald's All-American out of high school. And Quinterly ended up getting most of the minutes towards the end of the season. And so that would be one of the main reasons, I think, why Jaden Bradley, in addition to some of the extracurricular off the court stuff, and maybe just, the grass is always greener type of thing. But no doubt, Jaden Bradley, a very, very, very skilled young man, only a sophomore.
All right, well, we'll see how that transpires for Jaden here, but let's hear from him on what he was kind of looking for when he decided to put his name into the transfer portal.
Just entering the portal, just trying to find another spot for me where I feel like, I could just be successful and, being familiar with Arizona and, Coach Lloyd and everybody already. It was somewhere I felt like I can, just be successful at. So it felt like a place for me.
You knew from the first time around, right, that you knew Coach Lloyd and some of the guys? Or
yeah, for sure. That definitely matters, the second time around. The second time around, you want to make sure, you definitely pick the right spot. So being familiar with, Coach Lloyd and Coach Murphy and all those guys, were familiar with me. And so it was just an easy transition kind of. It's kind of like I already knew those guys and already familiar with the system. So it was a good fit.
How similarly are the two systems, playing at Alabama and then coming to Arizona? Because it seemed like a guard-oriented system there.
Yeah, for sure. Both, elite guards, both play fast, both have great coaches. So I would say it's similar in those aspects right there.
What did you learn during your time in Alabama playing underneath those guys that moved on to the next level?
Mm-hmm. We had some great players, that moved on to the next level, 3-4 guys that's in the NBA. So, just learning their work ethic and, the stuff that they did every day to, get to the next level. I take bits and pieces from that and, try to bring it here and, give it to my teammates. And hopefully, one day everybody on the team can get to that next level. So.
You mentioned there were a lot of similarities between the two programs, Arizona and Alabama, but what was the difference that made you want to jump to Arizona?
Just helping my game, fit it better. There was some aspects of Alabama that you, weren't able to do, and you could do it here. So, just that kind of aspect. It wasn't nothing too big, or just more. I feel like Arizona can help me, show and progress my game more than Alabama. That's really it.
Anything you mean specifically, or like schematically?
Yeah, just kind of, the shot selection area, what shots you're able to take and, the system and stuff like that. Nothing too crazy.
How much of a factor was it when you look at a guy like Dalen Terry, who before this coaching staff came in really didn't have much of a jump shot, I could say, and then at the end of his time at Arizona with Tommy Lloyd and the staff, he was a knockdown three-point shooter, and just the development of his jump shot.
Sure.
How much did that factor in just the development aspect of Arizona?
Coach Lloyd and everybody on the staff has, they have a history of, developing their guys, and that's one of the key things they, kind of preach when they're, recruiting development, and they show, different clips and stuff like that. So, and as a player, you want to get better, and when your head coach is kind of hands-on with development, that's kind of big, and, that's what really sold it for me.
Jaden Bradley, a McDonald's All-American in 2021 and a consensus 5-star prospect. He was SEC All-Freshman last year.
Started 22 games last year for the Crimson Tide.
22 out of the 37 games Alabama played, and obviously Alabama made it to the tournament. Averaged 6 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists per ball game. Was asked how he would describe his game on the floor.
I would say a competitor. Love to win, do whatever it takes to get the win. Unselfish guard. Create for his teammates. Could get a bucket. When it needs. Downhill guard. Get to the free throw line. Aggressive. Two-way player. Could do anything.
You mentioned two-way player. A lot of good defenders on this year's team. What are the differences schematically, defensively from Arizona to Alabama? What are the changes that you're trying to make?
Different systems. So, had a different defensive scheme plan at Alabama than over here. So it's going to be different. But, I like what we have going on so far. Everybody got a lot of guards that can get into each other. we got Big O, Crevis, key shot at the rim to block shots. So, we're looking like a great defensive team.
It seems like you guys could go really big or have 3 guards like you did sometimes. I mean, what do you think, or how it could play out, or do you see maybe going where you kind of throw both out there depending on who you're playing? Or
yeah, that's what I like about our team. We got so many different lineups we could go with, and like you said, depending on who we're playing, if it's a smaller lineup, bigger lineup, we could kind of match them or go smaller, try to outrun them, or go bigger and try to kind of play bully ball. So.
What are some of your goals for this upcoming season?
Definitely be more efficient than last year. Get my numbers up, finishing 3-point percentage, free throw percentage. Win more games. Definitely want to get to that Final Four. Just do whatever it takes. To win a national championship. And I feel like we got the team, the roster, coaching staff, and everybody to do that.
All right, Jaden played 19 minutes on opening night, and that was the 5th most on this team, 2 for 6 from the floor. And again, I'll reiterate what I said last segment. He's the biggest question mark to me because watching him through these first 3 games, I'm not quite sure what he is yet for this team and how he fits with the rest of these guards that you have here in Kylan Boswell and Caleb Love. Obviously, somebody that's coming in here with a lot of fanfare and will need to continue to kind of find his place and how he works into a big guard. He presents on the court as maybe a little bit bigger than I thought.
Yeah.
So a guy that sounds like maybe he can be a defensive force for you as well, kind of like what you're seeing from KJ Lewis, although I have not seen it to that level yet from him that I have had with KJ Lewis.
Jaden Bradley's a very, very good on-ball defender. I think the best thing you're going to see from a guy like Jaden Bradley on this year's team, we've talked a lot about Caleb Love being a 3-level scorer, senior who can get it done. If he wants 30 points, he can get 30 points. There are guys on this team, DK, who can put the ball in the basket. Jaden Bradley doesn't need to put the ball in the basket to be happy. You heard what he said there. Team. He's always going to be making the right play. So as far as what his stats look like, he might not have 6, 7, 8 assists, but he's going to get those 3 every night. He's going to get those 4 every night. Everybody on this team is going to get 2 or 3 or 4 every night. But keeping the turnovers down and playing that lockdown on-ball defense and mostly just running the floor and making sure that he's an active player within this system, because this is going to be a fast-paced team when they get those early defensive rebounds. I think Jaden Bradley is going to be a big part of that. Guys like Kylan and Caleb Love finding Jaden Bradley or vice versa, all those guys can finish. He's a much more athletic player, I think, than he showed so far here in the 2 exhibition games in the first game. I think fans around the city are going to really, really like Jaden Bradley.
All right, that's a little bit about the transfer guard, the transfer sophomore, Jaden Bradley from the University of Alabama.
As today's Spotlight on a Cat has been brought to you by O'Reilly Chevrolet. Get more with O'Reilly Chevrolet. basketball. Wildcats Radio 1290.
Hour number 2 of the Meridian Wealth Management Tip-Off Show. I'm David Kelly, joined as always by J.W. Madden, Calvin Efon as well. Arizona versus Duke. We are now 3 hours, T-minus 3 hours away. 180 minutes from tip-off.
It's only been 10 years. What's another 3 hours, DK?
Exactly, right? We will go to Cameron Indoor Stadium later in this hour and chat with the voice of the Blue Devils, David Schumott. He will join us as well. So a lot of that coming up for you as well here today. All right, let's give you your Pac-12 scoreboard. A lot of games today.
The Pac-12 scoreboard is brought to you by Mesquite Valley Growers. Mesquite Valley Growers. Real growers, real experience, real nursery.
All right, the first game of the day is actually Arizona at Duke at Cameron Indoor Stadium. Everything else will tip off at that time or after. Oregon State is going to host Troy tonight. The Beavers are 1-0. Grambling visits Colorado. The Buffaloes got off to a winning start this week. Oregon is also 1-0, and they will take on Montana tonight at the Matthew Knight Arena. Stanford will take on Sacramento State over at Maples Pavilion. Utah and UC Riverside tonight in Salt Lake City. Up in Pullman, Washington, it is Washington State and Prairie View A&M at the Beasley Coliseum. UCLA is on the hardwood tonight. They'll be welcoming in Lafayette for a game. That'll be on the Pac-12 Network from Poly Pavilion later this evening. And California also having an in-state game tonight. They'll take on the University of the Pacific. Those are the games from tonight.
Are there a lot of Panthers on the Prairie?
Panthers on I don't know. Is that their nickname is the Panthers?
It is.
Yeah.
Prairie View A&M Panthers.
Yeah.
And I didn't know Panthers to be animals on the prairie.
Prairie View aren't they from Texas or are they from Arkansas?
I'd have to look it up.
I think they're from Arkansas.
Yeah, I'd have to look it up.
Last night, I'll give you some of the scores from last night. Washington knocked off Northern Kentucky up in Seattle, 75-67. How about their outstanding young guard, Keon Brooks, in this ball game? Keon Brooks Jr., 32 points and 10 rebounds.
It's pretty good
for Keon Brooks Jr. Washington is off to a 2-0 start. USC also off to a 2-0 start as the 21st ranked team in the country beat Cal State Bakersfield 85-59. We will also mention that Arizona State got their season off to a start on Wednesday. The Sun Devils went on the road. I believe they were playing in some type of neutral court situation tournament against Mississippi State, and they lost by a score of 71-56. Bobby Hurley's teams never generally start very fast.
Well, recently he's dealt with a lot of transfers, right? So recently he's doing that Dana Altman thing up in Oregon. Traditionally, he gets a lot. He's 5 or 6 transfers in every year. It's hard, DK, when you're rotating your players year in, year out to get everybody on the same page. So a lot of times you'll see teams like that. Oregon, traditionally always starts out a little bit slow before the guys kind of figure each other out.
Yeah, I don't know that I recognize any of the names on this team, just kind of looking at the names here.
It's interesting because a lot of guys transferred into Arizona State last year and then transferred out again. So, yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces up there. By the way, it is Prairie View, Texas. Prairie View, Texas. Prairie View A&M in the city of Prairie View, Texas.
There you go. A member of the fabulous Southwestern Athletic Conference. They are down there. So Arizona State loses their opener. The Sun Devils are now 0-1 on the season. Let's just take a look at their early season schedule. They open up at home on Saturday against Texas Southern. That'll be an early game up in Tempe. And UMass Lowell is on their early season schedule. BYU, Sam Houston, San Francisco, the Dons we talked about earlier this week. They'll play SMU, San Diego, TCU, Northwestern. That is their early season schedule before they open up Pac-12 play on the 29th against Stanford. So clearly not as difficult a schedule
No.
as what the Arizona Wildcats are going to be embarking on.
We didn't get a chance to get into it with Kelvin, who was on earlier in that segment, but, talked about the schedule this year for Coach Lloyd. We talked on the air a lot, 10 years ago about the scheduling under Coach Miller, and that was a similar situation, I think, what ASU is dealing right now. Obviously, a lot of schedules put in place, the home and homes years out, but you really fill in those the games that you're missing, those empty spots on the fly. When you have a young team or a lot of transfers, it's not a good idea to go, on that murderer's row type of schedule. Arizona, on the other hand, the team they've got coming in, either it's experience from other schools with the transferred in or the guys they've got on the roster, but a ton of talent. You really want to challenge yourself early in the season as a really talented team like Arizona has this year. If not, Kelvin talked about that. Going to Cameron today, get that big win. What does that do for you? Well, as a group, the group confidence that comes out of that, you believe as a group that you can win. Group confidence different than that individual. Every athlete on this level, DK, has confidence in their own abilities. If you're the Sun Devils or any other team that's scheduling a little weaker in the non-conference, generally you're trying to build that team confidence and not lose a couple of games by 30, 40 points. That's not a good look.
520-848-1290, 520-848-1290 is the number to get in on the program. It is the Arizona Wildcats and the Duke Blue Devils, and this is the 10th meeting in this series between these two teams. Arizona leads the all-time series 5-4. The Wildcats have won the last two times these two teams have played. And we talked about the 2011 game in the last segment. That was the Derek Williams game in the Sweet 16 when he scored 32 and Kyrie Irving had 28 on the other side. The last time these two teams met was 10 years ago in 2013 in the preseason of that year. And the Arizona Wildcats won that meeting by a score of 72 to 66. And, that's going all the way back to the likes of Aaron Gordon and Rondé Hollis Jefferson here.
TJ McConnell was on that team.
As a walk, that was the year he sat out, if I'm not mistaken.
No, that was the year he played. Yeah, TJ McConnell was there on the team. Gabe York. Obviously, Nick Johnson was the leader of that team. On the other side, Jabari Parker, as a freshman, he was the number one recruit coming out of high school that year. So it's been that long since these two teams have faced off against each other.
Wow. Well, we'll take a closer look at that ball game. Just it's incredible when you really look at these games and the magnitude of this rivalry and the fact again that it hasn't been played that often. 7 of the 9 all-time meetings have been decided by less than 10 points.
Yep.
And I believe this is, I think I saw that this is the 5th or 6th time that both teams are in the top 25.
Oh, yeah. They've always, I remember the time that they had home and homes in the 80s and early 90s. And those teams were so stacked. It was crazy because that was Sean Elliott, Steve Kerr, obviously, the first time they played in 87 in Tucson. Danny Ferry was on the other side, and he and Sean Elliott were the 2 best players in the country, DK. And they were, Mitch Richmond, I think, is the one who won the Player of the Year that year. But going in, it was Danny Ferry and Sean Elliott were the favorites to win the National Player of the Year. The next time that they returned to Tucson in, that was 1991, that was Christian Laettner and Bobby Hurley's freshman year. So there's so much talent, so many great players over the years that have been involved. But you said it. When you talk about Duke, you talk about Arizona, these are 2 teams who consistently have been great over the course of the last 35, 40 years. So when it's no mystery why they would be matching up and both have numbers next to their name.
The last time they met, it was a 4 versus 6. Arizona was ranked 4th in the country, and Duke was ranked 6th. This was at the NIT preseason tip-off. When you want to venture to guess the leading scorer that day for Arizona?
Nick Johnson?
It was not very good.
Yeah.
Nick Johnson.
I know he won the MVP of that tournament. So.
Yeah, Nick Johnson had 15 points that day on just 4 of 10 shooting. So it was not, again, 72-66, so it wasn't a very high-scoring game as we kind of became accustomed in the Sean Miller era of defense. But, yeah, Nick Johnson led the Wildcats that day with 15. Brandon Ashley had 13. And you got 10 each. So all the starters scored in double figures. Aaron Gordon with 10. Caleb Tarzuski with 10, and TJ McConnell scored 10. Rondé came off the bench and scored 7 in 27 minutes.
I remember Aaron Gordon started a little slow in that game, but he had a couple of huge plays down the stretch. Really impactful.
And the leading scorer for Duke that day, what was this young man's first name? Rodney Hood.
Rodney Hood, yeah. Jabari
21
Parker,
points.
Quinn Cook, a lot of guys on that team as well.
Some NBA guys,
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure.
How about Marshall Plumlee? Lots of Plumlees over there at Duke.
He played, he was in that 2011 game. I think Amanda's brother.
Yep.
Were both in that game. All right, that's a check of your initial Pac-12 scoreboard for today.
That's been the Pac-12 Scoreboard, brought to you by Mesquite Valley Growers. Mesquite Valley Growers. Real growers, real experience, real nursery. Let's take a look at the Right Way Rundown and see what's coming up on our pregame show. Brought to you by Right Way Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. Do things the right way.
All right, we're going to head out to Cameron Indoor Stadium very shortly and hear from the voice of the Duke Blue Devils, David Shoemate. He'll get you ready for this game coming up. You'll also hear from the head coach of the Blue Devils, John Shire. Kelvin Efon will rejoin us as well. Kim Doss straight ahead, getting you set for Arizona and NAU on the women's hardwood tonight at McHale Center. Our best of the game is a little bit later. Best bets. Arizona right now is a 5.5-point underdog in this game to the Blue Devils. We'll give you our keys to the game as well as your Wildcat starting lineup. All of that and more is straight ahead. In our alumni focus this week, we mentioned a number of weeks back that Andre Iguodala has made the decision to retire from the National Basketball Association after a tremendous, and I mean a tremendous career for Andre Iguodala. And let's hear exactly kind of his thoughts on this and retirement and why now was the right time for him to make this decision.
You made an announcement earlier today that you will be retiring. What message do you want to give to the fans?
Well, it was a beautiful run, beautiful ride. Played in some great cities, played for some great organizations, learned a lot throughout the course over my career, and some great teammates. And what I'm trying to do, or what I've tried to do off the court and be the leader of investing in the tech space and opening that door and bringing it to the players has been beautiful to watch, and we continue to go down that journey.
Expanded on that a little bit. What is next for you?
Yeah, so I started my own venture firm, Mosaic General Partnership, $200 million early stage tech fund, investing in companies all the way from health tech to sports media rights, software, all throughout the tech ecosystem, and just changing the way we're thinking about it and who's getting access and who's participating on some of these cap tables.
Well, major props to you for doing that. Is that one of the biggest reasons why we haven't seen you, or we're not expecting to see you on the bench coaching? Because I've always thought about you coaching, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, well, it will be there, and I don't want to close that door, but this is an opportunity that I feel like I couldn't pass up. In terms of having access that's never been had. You had a lot of 49ers players in the past historically who have done it. Ronnie Lott's done a great job in that space. But I feel like as an NBA player, what we have in terms of our visibility across the world, we do business all across, the universe. And for me, it was opening that door, getting there early with the Warriors, and then taking that. And a big part of the foundation is giving it back to the players.
How receptive have some of the players been? I mean, you've played with some of the all-time greats, as far as I'm concerned, the greatest shooting backcourt in the history of basketball, the greatest shooter God ever created, as far as I'm concerned, is Steph Curry, Draymond, and the crew. How receptive have your former teammates and your NBA brethren been with all of this?
Oh, it's been beautiful. I mean, you've seen, Carmelo Anthony's done a hell of a job in this space. Kevin Durant has done a hell of a job in this space. Obviously, guys like LeBron, he's maximized what a player of his stature can do, but other players, I shouldn't say on the lower end, but not as visible, they're getting access. They're being able to get on cap tables. Steph and Clay, myself, we just bought the TGL team, Indoor Golf League with Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy. That news dropped yesterday. Super excited about that. So players have been talking a lot about ownership, not just in the sports world, but through every business ecosystem that we're involved in, and then you're starting to see it in all sports.
Yeah,
Okay.
Andre Iguodala is way too intelligent to be a head coach, I think, in the National Basketball Association.
If you watch enough basketball, guys who are cerebral just stand out. And Andre Iguodala has always played that way, but anytime you've heard him talk and be interviewed, it's clear that he's a deep thinker. He's always been very up to speed on trends and what's going on. And I think this venture capitalist thing has been a long time coming. I mean, he's been talking about it for a long time. So as far as coaching is concerned, I don't know. I think obviously anybody who's played it at that level understands the ins and outs of the game. Nobody stripped down on a ball handler better than Andre Iguodala in the history of the game. That being said, if he wants to go coach, like he said, he can always do that. I'm surprised on Allen Iverson's name wasn't brought up there. He's talking about all the great players that he played with. Didn't he play his first 6 years with AI? He was pretty good too.
Yeah, well, and we found out this week that venture capitalism is not all that Andre Iguodala has got on his plate. He is going to be the new executive director of the National Basketball Players Association as Tamika Tremaglio has stepped down into that role, and Andre is taking over as the acting executive director. Now, again, this is just an acting position, but it could turn into the full-time situation. But for right now, he's going to lead the Players Association. Not surprised at all, again, about that, because he was always at the forefront in when anything that involved, players meeting with management and the union side of it. He was always a guy who was a voice for the players in that respect.
I remember pretty recently the pre-bubble conversations that happened when COVID hit, and they didn't know what they were going to do with the season. I do recall that Andre Iguodala and LeBron were the two voices in the room that all the players wanted to hear what their opinion was about that. And that just tells you everything you need to know, DK. He's very respected around the league, so I'm sure he'll be very successful in that role.
Andre Iguodala, 19 years in the National Basketball Association, made more money playing basketball than any Wildcat in history. All right, let's get a break in here. When we come back, we'll head out to Cameron Indoor Stadium and hear from the voice of the Blue Devils, David Shoemate, on the number 2 ranked team in the country. This is the Meridian Wealth Management Arizona Game Day Tip-Off Show with J.W. Madden, Kelvin Efon. I'm David Kelly. You're listening to Wildcats Radio 1290.
This hour of the Meridian Wealth Management pregame show is brought to you by Blue Whale Car Wash, Caruso's Italian Restaurant, Cool Willie's Air and Plumbing, The Diamond Store, Goldberg and Osborne, Goodfellas AC, Humane Society of Southern Arizona, Lexus of Tucson, Nova Home Loans, Recon Auto Detail, Ride Now Power Sports Tucson Police Department.
Experiencing the natural wonders comes easy at Rock & K, nestled at the base of the Rincon Mountain foothills. Enjoy stunning mountain views up close every day. Hit the community trails, explore local parks like Saguaro National and Colossal Cave, and mingle at private Diamond Community Park events. In the top-rated Vail School District, Rock & K is close to work, shopping, and services. Tour 11 different model homes by top-tier builders, offering move-in ready homes and special incentives. Live RockandK.com. Designed by Nature, proud U of A radio broadcast sponsor.
My heat and air were in a state of disrepair.
tip-off show on the home of Arizona men's basketball. Wildcats Radio 1290. Wildcats fans, our keys to the game are brought to you by the Royal Automotive Group. Royal Automotive, the dealership that is different.
Arizona and Duke is coming up. We are about an hour, 2 hours, actually 2 hours and 15 minutes away from tip-off at Cameron Indoor Stadium in Durham, North Carolina. Thanks to David Shoemate for joining us, the voice of the Blue Devils. We'll be hearing from the head coach, John Shire, coming up straight ahead in our view from courtside. But right now, we want to get into what our keys to the game for an Arizona victory are. We welcome back the captain, Kelvin Ifan, our U of A basketball analyst, joining us. And Kelvin, what do you believe has to happen for Arizona to win this basketball game tonight?
Well, I think first and foremost, when you're going out on the road, you have the defensive rebound. I mean, you have the defensive rebound everywhere, but I think you really want to limit the second chance opportunities. Don't give those guys easy buckets. Make them work for everything. And I think the way that this defense plays, the way I've seen in the exhibitions in the first game, the way this defense plays, I think they should be able to do that. Take care of the ball. This is real early in the year. I'm going to set this bar pretty high just for this game to win this game, but 12 or less. I think you really have – I usually go with 14, but I think 12 or less because this is early in the season and it's a big game. And I believe that we have some veteran guards that, they are just getting to know each other and learn each other, but they still are veterans and strong with the ball. Get Ballo established inside. I believe that if you have that inside presence, it's going to force double teams. It's going to force the guards to have to dig in and help out. That's going to leave those perimeter guys a little bit more open and get a little bit more free movement out there. So I think if we can get Ballo established on that inside post, not only would it get their bigs in foul trouble, I think it'll force some help.
Yeah, it's interesting when you talk about the turnover factor. You said 12 tonight, maybe 14 is generally your number. I had said 15 for game one against Morgan State, and they managed to 7. So I like that number. I like 12 if you can stay under that. That's going to be a very good thing for this Arizona Wildcats offense. J-Dub, what are your keys tonight?
Well, number one, on the road, hostile environment, don't settle. And what I mean by that is do not settle for threes. I think that you could get really easy to get three happy in an environment like that. I'd like to see maybe 25 or less. They had 27 last game. If you see that number reaching up towards 30, DK, it means that the guards aren't doing the work to get inside that level of defense. You got to get past the three-point line. You got to penetrate and probe. You're going to find more open looks and feed the bigs if you make sure that you just don't settle for too many outside shots. Number two, this defense for the Arizona side, the pressure on the ball this year is going to be tremendous, and I just want to see the Arizona guards really make it difficult for those interior passing lanes for the Duke Blue Devils, especially Filipowski. Does a lot of damage catching high post, and he can turn. He's got good vision, really good passer. You want to limit his touches at that area, that free throw line extended. So pressure the ball as much as possible. And number three, just basically, number one, win the boards. You got to win the boards. You got to make sure no matter what you do on this team on the road that you establish your length and size. We talked about it all year. Guard play is going to be tremendous on the outside, but these bigs, along with the small forward, power forwards, when you talk about Keyshawn Johnson, Pelle Larson, those kind of guys, I think the rebounds just in general. K-Rock said you got to make sure you secure those defensive boards. No doubt. Offensive rebounds by Duke would be a killer in this game. Just in general, you got to make sure that you win the rebounding battle this game.
Well, and I absolutely agree with that. In fact, I want to see them dominate at the offensive end on the boards like they did against Morgan State. Continue that. I mean, those putback baskets, those putback dunks that we saw. If you can get baskets like that in a game like this, you're going to have an outstanding opportunity to win. So I'm gonna. They had 22 offensive rebounds in the game one. I'm gonna set that number for 15. I think if you can get 15 offensive rebounds and get yourself some easy second chance baskets, you've got a chance to go into Cameron Indoor Stadium and win a basketball game. But to me, the key, and it's going to be crazy because that's why they call them the Cameron Crazies. But you got to take that crowd out of the ball game, and I think the big and so I'm gonna. This might be an unusual stat, but I only want to see Tommy Lloyd have to take one timeout to kill a run. So don't let Duke get on any runs where Tommy has to continually take timeouts, because that means that this crowd is going to be in the ball game, and you want to try to keep the crazies out of the ball game. So no more than one instance in the entire game. I'm not even going half to half, but the entire game where Tommy Lloyd has to take a timeout to kill a run. And also, and I'll go back to the turnovers. I like that number. I'm going to go with Kelvin's number there. 12 turnovers or less in this ball game for the Arizona Wildcats to have a chance to win. Again, they're a little bit underdog, coming not a lot, but a little bit of an underdog at Cameron Indoor Stadium. So those are our keys to what the Wildcats must do to get the big road win here in game number 2.
Wildcats fans, that's our keys to the game. Brought to you by the Royal Automotive Group. Royal Automotive, the dealership that is different.
Arizona versus Duke. It's a 5 o'clock tip-off at Cameron Indoor Stadium, the 10th meeting all time. Now, Kelvin, you didn't play in any of the games against Duke, but you were in school when the Wildcats played some games against Duke. Do you remember those games, I guess, and just your conversations with the guys about, those opportunities to have a chance to play against the Duke Blue Devils?
Yeah, man, those are the type of games that I hated. That I went to football and missed, right? Right. Those are the ones you come to Arizona to play in, right? I mean, I was recruited the year that they went to the Final Four, and I was just all hyped to play the Michigans, which we had opportunity to play in Auburn Hills. Actually, I was there for that game, and the Syracuse games in Arkansas. So I've been in some big ones. But yeah, man, the guys, man, were pumped up. Jason Terry, Michael Dickerson were two of my better friends on the team, A.J. Bramlett as well. And when I tell you, they were always pumped up to play against Duke because they knew it was a chance to at history. You win games like that, these games are always remembered.
Yeah, that was a game in 1997 in Hawaii that the Wildcats lost 95-87 in late November. So, unfortunately, it did not work out for your guys in that particular night against the Duke Blue Devils. But
didn't they come back and get them in the Final Four run?
That's because they would have been 97, and then the next meeting wasn't until the finals in 2001.
Oh, okay.
2 days after that game, Kelvin was playing against that school up north in Tempe on the 28th.
Okay, I was locked in. I was locked into something else.
Yeah, you were focused.
Yeah. So, but again, those are great opportunities when you have a chance to play. Again, this is only, and we mentioned this is the 10th meeting, but this is only the second time that an Arizona team has played at Cameron Indoor Stadium. We mentioned, and J-Dub has talked about, when this was the last time they played the home and home, and that was 90 and 91, 89, 90, 90, 91. And the game at Durham, the Wildcats lost by 2.
Yeah, that was like
78-76.
That was like the Mats, Chris Mills, Sean Rooks, that whole team. That's the team that went to Durham.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was a one-off in the 87-88 year, which I believe is the one you referred to as the clock game.
91 was the double overtime. Yeah, the last time they were in Tucson, that was a double overtime game.
Was that the clock game?
That was a game in which there are differing opinions on exactly what went down. I just remember that Coach K left Tucson upset after that game.
Yeah. So those were the only 2 times that they played here in Tucson. 87 right before the New Year's Eve, and then in 1990 in February. That's interesting. That might have been back in the day. I'm thinking when they used to play maybe the second game during the ASU week when you'd have only one game. That might have been that instance there.
I remember that year like it was yesterday. So I'll tell you exactly what happened. They went up to Alaska and played in the Great Alaska Shootout, and they came back undefeated, and they jumped into the top 10. And then they had this game already pre-scheduled. That was 87-88, the first year the Arizona went to the Final Four. So Steve Kerr's senior year. And they played that first game and beat Danny Ferry and Duke in 87.
I'd be interested to see who was on the team the first time they played in 1961. And Duke won 78-69. 47. Who played for Duke and who played for Arizona in that game? Let's see. We'll have to go back and see if we can go through the archives and find a box score on that game.
A little
right
before
there.
my time.
Yeah, a little bit before your
Yeah.
time, a little bit before all of our times. Kelvin, any final thoughts on this one before we let you go?
Well, I'd just like to say again, man, I love that these coaches come together and have big games like this at the beginning of the year. I just think that it's a win-win for both teams. Of course, you want to come out on the winning side, but everything that you get from this game, that you can help your team get back into the next practice and get ready for the rest of the season. So it's just great to see some big-time basketball at this time of year.
You love this game. I love you, Kelvin. I miss you, and I can't wait to see you back in the studio, and hurry back.
Oh, man, I appreciate that, man. I love you guys, man. I appreciate that, man. I miss y'all.
All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow morning on the Meridian Wealth Management Arizona Game Day pregame show for football, Arizona and Colorado. That's going to be fun, too.
Yes, sir. Right out, guys.
All right, Kelvin Efon, and those are our keys to the game. And then coming up in the next hour, we will be talking to Kim Doss. We'll get you set for Arizona women's basketball against NAU. But before we do that, let's hear from the head coach of the Duke Blue Devils, John Shire. He's in his second season, J-Dub?
Correct. This is his second season.
Season. He was asked about this home-and-home matchup and how it came together.
This is something that came about with your relationship with the other coach. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I've known Tommy for some time,
Right.
and I think there's a lot of similarities with our path, being at a school like Gonzaga, being at a school like Duke as assistant coaches for a period of time, and then you take over two big-time programs. It's year 3 for him, year 2 for me. So there's been a relationship there, but I think most importantly, it was a great opportunity for both of us, in both of our programs. You look at, Duke and Arizona, the success they've had, the success we've had, and they get a chance. Look, scheduling for me has been something that's, Coach K has done such an amazing job for a long time, being innovative, scheduling some big-time games, whether it be home and home, whether it be neutral. The last 2 years there's been so much change, unpredictability in terms of not only your conference schedule, who's going to be in your conference too. And so, at the time you schedule, Tommy and I talked about for each of us, just be able to do this early on and be great for our fan bases, be great for our players. And so it's really an easy process and few conversations. I think the hardest part is dates.
Yeah.
And we were able to get 2 dates together for this year and next year, and we're excited about it.
It's time now to take you down the front row of the arena. A view from courtside is brought to you by Kaiser Garage Door and Gates. Kaiser, celebrating 25 years serving Southern Arizona.
Yeah, there's no better view than the one that John Shire and Tommy Lloyd are going to have for this game courtside. Again, he mentioned John Shire. He's the 20th. This is interesting. He is the 20th head coach at Duke University. You would not think, as long as Mike Krzyzewski was there, that they've had that many head coaches. It must have really been bad before Coach K got there.
Well, they had some success before Coach K. Nothing like he developed, obviously, but clearly, if you're talking about 2 coaches in the last 45 years, right, something like that. Yeah, it must have been the early. It looks like they had about 10 coaches before 1928. So there's your numbers.
Yeah. See, now I really want to know who was on that 1961
I'll find out.
team.
How's that? I'll look it up for you.
For both teams. All right, but John Shire asked again about this series. This is the 10th meeting in this series, and interesting, he's got a little story to tell about the Duke-Arizona rivalry.
I also want to ask you about the series. This has been a great series. Duke actually trails in this one 5-4. Some of your teammates lost the year after you left to Arizona. This has been tough on Duke. These losses have been tough. Is it good to schedule a team that can actually, a program that can beat you and has had success in the past? Is that the kind of thing that's going to make your team grow and see what you've got early on?
Well, I think the history is important to understand, but also it's who they are right now. They've been as good as anybody in the country the last couple of years. So from a respect level, it's there 100%. For me, look, I was at the 2001 national championship game. You talk about Arizona Duke. I was in the Arizona section, actually.
Oh, wow.
I don't even know if that's. Yeah. So it shows you no matter what section you're in, and Duke had the better team, by the way. I was Shane Battier all the way, but I had a connection to Michael Wright, and who unfortunately passed away a couple years ago. But Michael Wright's from Chicago, watched him play in high school, and was fortunate to get tickets to the game through him in Minneapolis. And so I remember being in that game and wanting to play in games like that. And then Lute Olson recruited me.
Wow.
Arizona was one of my final 3 schools, and so I've had a lot of respect for Arizona, the program that they have. Tommy, they've done it for a long time, and so have we. So to me, it made sense when you're looking for a partner to do this with, to do a true home and home. It just felt right to do it with these guys.
Well, and it's interesting. You mentioned that double overtime game that they lost here in Tucson.
Yeah,
that was one of their national championship teams.
Oh yeah,
that for Coach K, right there.
I love what he said there about number one, that he was recruited and U of A was one of his top 3 schools, recruited by Coach Olson. But just the relationship with Michael Wright from Chicago and how was present at a Duke national championship game, but was sitting in the other team section. Here he is as the head coach. I do have the names of the players on the 61, 62 Arizona and Duke rosters. You ready?
Yeah.
Art Heyman was the leader for the Duke Blue Devils. He went on to play in the NBA. So did Jeff Mullins. 25.3 for Art Heyman, 21.1 points per game for Jeff Mullins. On the other side, Arizona was led by Joe, forgive me for this pronunciation, Skeisger.
Okay.
Is that correct? And he averaged 20 points a game, 6'5" forward. Larry Harris, Wes Flynn, Bill Decker, Dan Breck, Buster Forbes, Monty Clausen, and Kirk Young.
Wow.
To name a few.
If you know any of those guys, if you're related to any of those guys, we want to talk to you today, because your ancestors, or if any of those guys, I don't know if any of those guys would still be alive. But 520-848-1290, 520-848-1290. Call us and tell us if your relatives ever talked about that meeting between Arizona and Duke. All right, before we get to break here, we're running a little bit behind. We want to hear from Tommy Lloyd on his relationship with John Shire.
I called John when he got the job, and I just thought it would be a great idea for both of us to play a game like this. And, scheduling in college basketball is getting harder and harder for whatever reason. So anytime you get an opportunity to, get 2 programs, an Arizona and a Duke stature to meet on the other's court, I think it's pretty cool. So, especially in out of conference. So, I respect John as a person and as a coach, and I'm thankful that he agreed to do this, and he and I think share a mutual respect for each other, and we don't talk every day, but we definitely touch base over the course of the season, and we see each other out recruiting and things of that. So. I'm honored that they're giving us this opportunity.
You guys go back a ways as assistants. Like, did you see him on the recruiting trail?
Well, man, he's so much younger than me. I think I was on the bench in a game in Madison Square Garden. I think they beat us pretty good. And then as coaches, we're probably around each other a lot more than people realize, on the road, and just gotten to know him over the years doing that. I respect him. That's what he stepped into is pretty impressive at a young age, and I think he's doing an admirable job, and I think he's going to have a great coaching career.
All right, that is Tommy Lloyd, 520-848-1290. We want to talk to Kevin. You are on the Meridian Wealth Management Arizona Game Day Tip-Off Show on Wildcats Radio 1290.
Hi. Hey, just a quick note about the team. Dan Breck was the son of Bill Breck from Bill Breck Dodge. There was a dealership here in Tucson for years. And Monty Clausen was the son of Dick Clausen, our athletic director, years past. And Monty lives in Tucson. He's very active in the Rotary. I wish I had his number. I'd text it to you. But he's a wonderful human being, and I'm sure he's listening, or he'll sure be watching the game tonight.
Well, maybe we'll try to get Monty. We'll see if we can track Monty down and get him on the show Monday and get his thoughts.
He's a great person.
Yeah. Outstanding. Hey, Kevin, appreciate you calling in with that historic information for us.
Hey, you're welcome. I'm history. I'm old.
Nothing wrong with that. You're knowledgeable. I like it. You're knowledgeable.
Knowledgeable, yeah, and old. All right, take care.
All right, bear down.
All right, let's get a break in here. Kim Doss is going to join us. We'll talk some Arizona women's basketball. It's the Meridian Wealth Management Arizona Tip-Off Show with J.W. Madden. I'm David Kelly. You're listening to Wildcats Radio, 1290.
We hope you enjoyed your view from courtside. It was brought to you by Kaiser Garage Door and Gates. Kaiser, celebrating 25 years serving Southern Arizona. This hour of the Meridian Wealth Management pregame show is brought to you by Blue Whale Car Wash, Caruso's Italian Restaurant, Cool Willie's Air and Plumbing, The Diamond Store, Goldberg and Osborne, Goodfellas AC, Humane Society of Southern Arizona, Lexus of Tucson, Nova Home Loans, Recon Auto Detail, Ride Now Power Sports Tucson, Tucson Police Department. KCUB Tucson, a Cumulus media station. We have the Arizona Wildcats covered. Wildcats Radio 1290.
Arizona and Duke tonight in Durham, North Carolina. We've also got Arizona women's basketball tonight here in Tucson. It's a 6 o'clock tip-off. You will hear that game on our sister station, KTUC, Freedom 1400. And that game, again, will tip off at 6 o'clock. Our coverage will begin at 5:50 over there. I'm sorry. Let me correct myself. That game tips off at 6:30. And our coverage over there will begin at 6:20 on the with Derek Palmer live from McHale Center. Let's talk about Arizona women's basketball. We are joined by Kim Doss from AZ Desert Swarm. And Kim, always great to have you on. The ladies got off to a winning start on the road in Las Cruces. You went to Las Cruces for this particular ball game earlier in the week on Monday night. And I was just glad to see more than five ladies on the court for that game.
It was nice, wasn't it? They're almost back to full strength. I mean, as far as full strength for this year, but.
And obviously, one of the young ladies that was back on the court that we had not had a chance to see early on in either of the exhibitions was Brea Cunningham, and boy, oh boy, did she look the part in the opening of her college career. How nice was that to see for her to just come out and have a really strong performance?
Well, it was awesome. And the most surprising thing is she's apparently been out of practice for a month. So, I mean, if that's what she's doing coming off very little practice, then you got to like her chances.
Absolutely. It's interesting kind of the way that they've talked about Brea so far this season as kind of being someone who really is just a young lady who loves to play the post in an era where you have so many young women that maybe just want to, bigs that want to be out and be on the outside shooting threes and that kind of thing. But that's maybe something we haven't necessarily had for a long time is a pure post player like a Brea Cunningham, or at least with the talent like a Brea Cunningham.
Right. I mean, when you think about it, maybe, I don't know if Easy Ebekwe would qualify. I mean, I think about Shantani's Polk, really being the dominant post in Arizona history. With Brea, what excites me is I hate to see a big take a three. I really do. It's my So I'm excited about seeing a big be a big.
I absolutely agree with that. The other talented freshman, Jada Williams, she's been struggling with her shot through these first 3 games, the 2 exhibition games, and now the first game of the season. You think that's just freshman jitters that she's going to? Because I know Adia said that she shoots the ball well in practice, but it just hasn't really translated to the games so far.
Well, it could be nerves. And for me, I don't really expect Jada to be a big scorer. I mean, sure, she can do it, but when I watched her in high school, I saw more of a distributor, someone who played defense.
think Maya Najee's year is going to be? She's an interesting, obviously, a McDonald's All-American. Went through some struggles last year, had some illnesses off the court, and, had a concussion that she dealt with for part of the season last year. Never really kind of found her footing. Obviously, she's come out and said she's in the best shape of her life, and Adia has reiterated that she is, but maybe even still not at the level of fitness that Adia would like her to be. What are you anticipating that we're going to see from Maya Najee this season?
What I like about Maya this year is that last year I felt like maybe she's a little bit of afraid of the contact, and I feel like she's going after those shots now. She's not so hesitant, and when she gets the foul, she can knock those foul shots down. So that's what I'm looking for for Maya, is to take that contact, to be willing to go after those shots instead of being a little bit hesitant. And her footwork looks better. She's able to step through the defenders a little bit better this year and hit those shots. So that's what I see from her. I think she's going to be scoring more because she's more confident and she feels stronger. Not so strong last year.
Kim Dosh joining us from Arizona Desert Swarm. AZ Desert Swarm is the website. They cover all things Arizona Wildcats. It's the Wildcats and the Northern Arizona Lumberjacks tonight at McHale Center, with tip-off coming up at 6:30. What is obviously Adia, I should say, kind of retooled her coaching staff in this offseason. You were there for the opener. How did things seem to work from that respect? I know we had the situation in the one game where Bet didn't necessarily put Brea's name into the book, so that caused them a foul. But how do you see things working so far with these new roles on the bench for Adia?
Well, one thing I see, especially with Bet, is she's got a real connection to the players. Like when I talked to Isis Bay, Bet is why she came to Arizona. She said Bet had gotten her out of some tough situations, and still when she left, she checked up on her. So I think that's one thing. Maybe there wasn't a cohesiveness there with the coaches last year. Sometimes I got that feeling, and I feel like there is that cohesiveness. Like they're comfortable with their roles.
You went to Las Cruces. Are you going to the Bahamas, Kim? Is that a no?
No. I'm not even a Bahamas type person. I'm not a Vegas type person. I'm a Las Cruces type person.
I've heard you don't like Las Vegas.
No.
But it seemed like you did like Las Cruces.
I did. I loved it. It's very pretty, and it's not expensive. That's the selling point for any place for me.
There you go. All right. It is a 6:30 tip-off tonight, Arizona and Northern Arizona. Kim, before I let you go, I wanted to point out, obviously, the National Signing Day was earlier this week. It's been a tough season for Arizona women's volleyball, but they picked up the #1 recruit in the nation in Carly Cisneros. Tell the folks a little bit about Carly and how that whole thing came together. I believe she committed under Dave Rubio, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? And how they were able to, with the coaching change, they were obviously able to keep her in the fold.
Right. When that retirement was announced, I actually had her dad sending me messages. Is Rita going to be the coach? Is Rita going to be the coach? So, they had told Carly that it was a possibility Dave would not be here for her entire career. But at the time, he expected to at least be here for the start. And so she was very comfortable with Dave. she's a smart kid. She understands volleyball, that it's not all just the big play. It's the little things that you have to do. And the little things are what has hurt Arizona this year, the passing and that sort of thing. And that's what she does. That's her forte. So just having her, even if all she did was pass, she would improve the team. She's very excited about Arizona. She said her great grandparents wanted her to go to Kansas because she's from Missouri. But she was excited about being out in the warm weather, and but now she gets to go home and play in front of her family in the Big 12. So she's excited about that too.
Yeah, absolutely a huge get for Rita Stubbs and that program as they look to turn things around next season. Big win last night and another game coming up this weekend against Colorado at McHale Center. Kim, as always, we appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I'll be here anytime, David.
All right. Kim Doss from AZ Desert Swarm joining us here to talk about tonight's game coming up against the Northern Arizona Lumberjacks at McHale Center. Let's tell you a little bit about what is coming up in the rest of this final hour of our program.
Let's take a look at the Right Way Rundown and see what's coming up on our pregame show. Brought to you by Right Way Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. Do things the right way.
All right, coming up in the next segment, we'll give you our best of the game and our best bets, and then we'll have the starting lineup as well ahead for you. Arizona and Duke from Cameron Indoor Stadium. It is the Meridian Wealth Management Arizona Tip-Off Show. With Kelvin Efon and J.W. Madden, I'm David Kelly. You're listening to Wildcats Radio 1290.
This hour of the Meridian Wealth Management pregame show is brought to you by Broadway in Tucson, Dave & Buster's Tucson, Dorado Rock, First Choice Pools, The Good Feet Store, Jack Furrier Tire and Auto Care, O'Reilly Chevrolet, Ram Plumbing, Restaurant Supply Store, Right Way Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing, Rocking KA Master Plan Community Design by Nature, University Termite and Pest Control.
Here's an important message from University Termite and Pest Control. The weather is getting cooler here, and so rodents will be seeking alternative housing. Do you need a professional? Call University Termite and Pest Control, 886-4146. They've been serving Tucson since 1974. You can be assured University Termite and Pest Control will keep you pest-free using the most responsible products and application methods. 28 school districts, 3 hospitals, 2 colleges, 1 university, and thousands of homeowners trust University Termite and Pest Control. You can too. Call University Termite and Pest Control today at 886-4146 or go to bepestfree.com.
What do you mean, trenchless?
Means no trench.
But it's the sewer line.
And they did it without ruining my yard.
The yard we're standing in?
The very same.
I don't know if I trust that.
I trust that because I trust them.
Them?
Ram Plumbing.
Locally owned and operated Ram Plumbing, offering a comprehensive range of plumbing services from fixtures to installation to trenchless sewer replacement. Turn to Tucson's most trusted plumber. When your plumbing's in trouble, call Ram on the double. Online at bestplumbertucson.com.
Does it feel like the price of everything is going up, up, up? We can't control the price of gas or groceries, but at Royal Buick GMC, we never add market adjustments, even while other dealers add fees because inventory is limited. At Royal Buick GMC, you can rest assured you won't pay market adjustments, and we stand by our transparent online pricing. Royal Buick GMC, the dealership that's different. OAC plus tax, title, license, dealer installed options, and $529 doc fee. Royal Buick GMC, in the Auto Mall and at RoyalTucson.com.
The game of football is about pain. Ever since I was 5 years old, it's been all about football. It's been about running, jumping, blocking, tackling. I stopped playing at 31.
You're listening to Michael Robinson, retired pro fullback.
I thought that foot pain was going to be with me for the rest of my life. I'm so glad I met Good Feet. I'm so glad.
on the home of Arizona men's basketball. Wildcats Radio 1290.
Tabs hounded by Love defensively, and his pass stolen away by Pella Larson. Pella to the other bucket and laid up and good.
In the passing lane, forcing another turnover. Arizona forcing the action out on the perimeter, and Pella Larson gets it done.
And here's a steal by Boswell. Boswell to the bucket, laid up and good.
You want defensive pressure, Brian?
Yeah, you
got it.
Arizona and Duke straight ahead from Cameron Indoor Stadium. Tip-off coming up at 5 o'clock. We've got you till 4, and then the network takes over. Again, if you were not with us yesterday, Brian Jeffries, the voice of the Wildcats, will not be calling this game tonight. It'll be the play-by-play will be provided by Phil Brame, who is with Learfield out of the home office. I believe they're still located in somewhere in North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. Winston-Salem, I believe.
Yeah.
Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Now, Brian couldn't make the game because you were unavailable to lend your Learjet.
My
to him,
Learjet,
right? Yeah.
exactly. I'm getting the tires changed on it right now, and the company that changes the tires had to fly them in from Europe.
Of course, as you do.
Yeah, it wasn't ready to go for today, unfortunately. For Brian Jeffries. So Phil Brame will sit in. Ryan Hansen, though, we understand, will be on the broadcast tonight. We'll hopefully talk to Ryan on Monday ahead of the game against Southern and get his thoughts on this game here tonight. Now, yesterday, we threw out a question of the day regarding Arizona men's basketball. So we'll dive into this and the results. The question was, outside of the ASU Sun Devils and the UCLA Bruins, who is Arizona's biggest rival in men's basketball? And the choices were Duke, Kansas, Oregon, and other. We got a whole lot of people that weighed in on this one. And early on, it was very largely in favor of the Oregon Ducks.
Right.
Well, this ended. I believe it just ended a little while ago, 25 minutes ago, as a matter of fact, at the top of the 3 o'clock hour. Oregon wins. 37% of the people said Oregon, but it got close at the end. I think maybe game day will do that to you. 32% of the people said Duke in this, with 18% coming in with Kansas and 13% coming in with other on this. And I want to read a few of these comments because some of them were pretty good. Dan Moreno checks in, and he says, on Wisconsin, Badgers, which obviously that was huge.
That's the same
in the Sean Miller era.
Same category as Duke. So, I mean, Wisconsin and Arizona have not played each other very often, DK.
No.
But when they have, it's been to Wisconsin preventing Arizona to go to the Elite Eight, or to the Final Four. So that would be why.
U of A Hoops fan checks in and says, I'm sure it'll become Kansas after the conference change. Sam T says it is a hard question because the Pac stinks so much. In recent years, though, he would say Oregon.
Well, like I said yesterday, it was Stanford 30 years ago, it was Washington 20 years ago, and it's been Oregon the last 10 years. So it just depends how old the person is you're asking.
Yeah.
All three of those teams have kind of shuffled their way around as being Arizona's chief rival outside of UCLA in the conference.
And then there's, I don't even know, this is Big 15 count of Arizona. I'm not sure what that means. He says in the past few years, it's been the Ducks. If you go back 20 years, it was the Trees, much like what you said, J-Dub. He said 20 years prior to that. So I'm thinking now he's talking 8. Well, he says Oregon State.
Yeah. Well, for sure. Oregon State was what was his name? Oh, man, that's disrespectful.
Gary Payton?
No, the coach.
Ralph Miller.
Yeah, Coach Miller, obviously up there, did some amazing things. At Oregon State used to be one of the top 15, 20 programs in the country during that era. And then, obviously, Gary Payton's biggest problem with college is he played in the same era as Sean Elliott. So Gary Payton probably would have been 2-3-time Pac-12 Player of the Year if not for Sean Elliott playing. They were in the same class.
I thought you were gonna say Gary Payton's biggest problem with college was he didn't go to class.
Well, I don't know him personally, but that could be it too. How do you go from Oakland to Corvallis?
Yeah, those were all on Twitter. Mike Sakala checked in on Facebook to say he would vote for Duke. Had some epic games against them, which is true. We've gone over a number of those, including the initial one in 1961. I want to go back to the Big 15 count of Arizona because he goes on after he said the Beavers. He says, we don't play any other school enough to be a rivalry, but that's about to change with the Jayhawks and a couple of other Big 12 schools here and there.
Yeah, Houston. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of schools in that conference right now.
Baylor.
Baylor, exactly. That's a really good basketball conference. I like Kansas. I mean, because again, when Arizona went to the final and won the final in '97, they obviously famously knocked off the favorite that year to win it all was Kansas. They've played several times in the NCAA tournament, those two teams. So just like in the Duke situation, the bigger the stakes in a game, that makes a lasting memory in a fan's mind. So people remember the Wisconsin games, they remember the Duke games, they remember the Kansas games because they were always meant something when those teams faced off against each other.
Yeah. So as we mentioned at the top, Brian Jeffries will not be on the call for basketball. He will, however, though, be on the call tomorrow in Boulder, Arizona, and Colorado on the football field. And because of that, I want to remind you that we will be on the air, J-Dub, myself, Kelvin Ifan, Glenn Howell, tomorrow morning at 7:30. Glenn and I will be out at Soul Sports. It's going to actually open tomorrow at 6:30. Now, normally Soul Sports does not open until 10 o'clock, but they are opening at 6:30 in the morning. So be sure to get on out there. Our show starts at 7:30. We'll take you till 10:30. The Meridian Wealth Management Arizona Game Day pregame shows. We get you set for the Wildcats and Colorado. Kickoff is at noon. So Soul Sports will open at 6:30 tomorrow out of Casino del Sol. So if you got your gambling, if you want to get your gambling on, if you want to get in on those early games that start at 9 o'clock. My mom has to get used now to if she wants to get up and watch Ohio State. Sometimes she has to get up early because the Buckeyes often than not play at 9 a.m. It's like, Mom, you got to set your clock because it's an early game for us.
And she hasn't been out here too long, so the fact that we don't change time zones and everybody else does makes it so that you have a time slot that you watch sports in, and then everybody else changes times. We don't. Their time slot gets adjusted.
Right. Well, I love it on Sunday because I get to sleep an extra hour.
Sure.
Before the early games in the NFL. So that's a positive there. The Meridian Wealth Management pregame show at Soul Sports is brought to you by Coors Light, the official corporate sponsor of Arizona Athletics. Coors Light, there's nothing like game day at Arizona. All right, let's find out who the Blue Devil that we are a little bit concerned with messing this thing up today might just be.
Who is today's Pest of the Game? The Pest of the Game is brought to you by University Termite and Pest Control. Check them out at BePestFree.com.
And it's interesting in basketball now that we're getting to this because we have the Pest of the Game in football. But I think it's my philosophy for this in football has always been generally I go with somebody on defense.
Right.
Because I think, players on defense are more likely to mess you up than players on offense. And so I think I'm going to kind of stick with that mentality. And I'm going to go, J-Dub, with Jalen Blakes.
All right.
Who played 19 minutes in the opener against Dartmouth and had 3 steals and 2 blocked shots for the Duke Blue Devils. He is a 6'2" guard from Somerset, New Jersey. Went to Blair Academy, but not bad defensively. A couple of blocked shots and 3 steals. He could be somebody that could get underneath your skin tonight.
No doubt.
At Cameron Indoor Stadium.
I like that philosophy, going defense. In this particular case, I'm going to keep it real simple. I think that their best player, DK, Kyle Filipowski, is the pest, and I'll tell you why. He is the center of everything they do. So they're going to kick the ball into him. He's going to draw defense. They're going to find open shooters. Everything that they do within that offense, probably going to play 70% of the possessions at center. He is a real problem. He, along with Baycott from North Carolina, obviously Edey from Purdue, those are the 3 favorites to be player of the year this year. I just think that if you do not contain him, especially at that high post, from turning and causing mayhem, I think it's going to be a long night for Arizona. So I think that he's the guy who's going to he's going to be the fulcrum. He's going to make it all happen for the Blue Devils. They've got 27 5-stars on that roster like they do every single year, DK. You could pick a name out of a hat. They're all going to be that level of pass. But I think their best player, National Player of the Year favorite, he's the guy I'm most focused on. And if he goes crazy, I think Duke maybe, I don't want to say runs away with this, but I think Duke maybe wins comfortably unless Arizona can somehow find a way to limit his effectiveness.
They only shot 12 free throws in that game the other night. But, yeah, the Kyle Philippout. So you're taking the Glenn Howell approach.
In this particular case, on the road in Durham, yes.
Okay. All right. There we go.
Well, you said you wanted to make sure that you could try to take those Cameron crazies out of it. I'm telling you one thing. What's going to lead to those guys going nuts on the, they're right on top of the court is if they get any kind of backdoor cuts and he's finding guys for dunks and that kind of thing. So making sure that he's not as effective as a scorer, but more than anything, it's the vision and all of that kind of stuff. And it's always that hockey pass is the way that they do it, just like Arizona. So yeah, I think you gotta slow him down.
And I left this out of my keys to the game, but I think what we saw in the game against Morgan State for Arizona was the guards were very aggressive. And I think if you stay aggressive in this game, Duke against Dartmouth got into a little bit of early foul trouble with their guards. And so if you could put them in that similar situation and some of those guys have to sit down, like Jeremy Roach and Jared McCain, who eventually fouled out of that ball game, that's going to be extremely beneficial for Arizona if you can get these guards into foul trouble tonight, much like we saw them get into in that Dartmouth
And,
game.
the whole smacking the floor. Shire is a Coach K protege. And his style of Coach K over the years was that tough, in-your-skin, man-to-man defense. So what you're looking at there is you just described a bunch of young guards who just don't understand when to not put their hand in the cookie jar, right? So they're going to be super aggressive. They're going to be up in you. That's how defense works for Duke. The question is, there's so much talent on the Arizona side in the backcourt. So if they can take advantage of that aggressiveness, maybe some backdoor cuts, that kind of thing, I think that they'll be just fine.
All right, we have one segment of the show left to go. We want to hear from you in that final segment today, 520-848-1290, 520-848-1290. Where are you watching the game today? And what are you expecting from your Arizona Wildcats? It is the Meridian Wealth Management Arizona tip-off show prior to the Wildcats and the Duke Blue Devils with J.W. Madden and Kelvin Ifan. I'm David Kelly. That is your pest of the game for today.
That's today's Pest of the Game. The Pest of the Game is brought to you by University Termite and Pest Control. Visit BePestFree.com. The Meridian Wealth Management Countdown to Tip-Off Show continues on the home of Arizona men's basketball, Wildcats Radio 1290.
Experiencing the natural wonders comes easy at Rockin' K. Nestled at the base of the Rincon Mountain foothills. Enjoy stunning mountain views up close every day. And coming soon is Del Webb at Rockin' K, a 55-plus active adult community offering a rec center, world-class amenities that promote health and wellness, and new homes with refined interiors and stunning outdoor spaces. Live RockinK.com. Designed by Nature, proud U of A radio broadcast sponsor.
Hi, it's Floyd, the family man with the family plan. Outdated HVAC systems will drive up your electric bill, drain your wallet, and peace of mind. Save now at Goodfellas with no payments or interest till 2024. Get a 30% federal tax credit, up to $2,000 off qualifying heat pumps. Trust Goodfellas. We're locally owned with thousands of 5-star reviews. Good service, good prices, Goodfellas. Visit us at goodfellasac.com to schedule a no-cost estimate.
Tucson, this is Joseph Blair, former Wildcat and assistant coach of the Washington Wizards. When I came to play basketball at the U of A in the 90s, the Tucson community became and has always remained a special part of my life. And this is why I proudly joined the Meridian Wealth Management Tucson Advisory Business Council. If you have financial questions or concerns, please be sure and call my friends Natalie or Ruben Fernandez at 719-1433 or visit online at Meridian Wealth LLC. And as always, Bear down, Tucson.
Advisory services provided by Meridian Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor.
The Window Depot is proud to sponsor the first look at today's game and would like to invite Arizona Wildcat fans to visit one of their Tucson warehouses. The Window Depot provides over 1,000 in-stock vinyl windows, interior and exterior doors, plus granite and quartz countertops, and a huge selection of custom cabinetry, all at the lowest prices in town. Consider the Window Depot your MVP when it comes to your home improvement needs. Stores are open Monday through Saturday, or order online at thewindowdepot.com. The Window Depot, more than a window store.
It's the holiday gift grab, and you could win a share of over $90,000 in prizes at Desert Diamond Casino Sahuarita. Fridays in November.
Management Countdown and Tip-Off Show on the home of Arizona men's basketball. Wildcats Radio 1290.
There's a drive inside, shot blocked by Johnson. Rebound off to Lewis. KJ down full court left to a trailing Bradley. Bradley crossover into the lane, bounce pass. Krivas laid up, good, and Mo to the line for one more.
Talk about a pest. Let's hope Keyshawn Johnson remains a pest for the Duke Blue Devils tonight. Talk about steals and blocks. He had 3 and 3 in the opener.
He is like such a complete defensive player, DK, as far as like defensive rebounding, boxing out, really big, strong body, gets his hands in the passing lane, just knows how to play that game. Coming from San Diego State, that's what they did. That's a very strong defensive team tradition over there. So he just spent his last 3 years in college playing defense about as hard as possible. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing him in an Arizona uniform.
It was Keyshawn Johnson, as was one of the people at the post-game press conference. We'll hear from him in a minute, but let's hear from Tommy Lloyd on that defense that you got from Keyshawn Johnson, as well as the defense we've been getting all season so far from KJ Lewis, and how this entire team could potentially turn in to an outstanding defensive unit at Arizona.
They're both elite defenders, and they're probably doing a bunch of things that aren't even showing up in the stat sheet. And I think we have potential to be a dynamic defensive team. You throw Pell out there, you throw Kylan and JB. Caleb's really picked it up at that end, and then you got some great shot blockers behind it. So we have to kind of learn how and trust putting all the pieces together, because I think when we do, it's pretty impactful.
Indeed it is. Keyshawn Johnson played 19 minutes in the opener. Just efficient. He was 5 of 8 from the floor in that ball game. 4 of 7 from the line was Keyshawn Johnson. 14 points, 7 rebounds, and again, 3 steals and 3 block shots for the big man, who is liking the way that this season started for himself and for his teammates.
I'm just happy to be around these guys, you know. I got Omar and Krivas in the front court with me. I know they protected me, and they showed that they gonna have my back. The guard play is heavy. We just D-team all around. So I feel like we play Arizona basketball.
What's your role, given that you do so many things? You know, you're varied. Your game's varied.
I'm just a winner all in all. I don't have like a set role. Whatever I could bring to the table, that's what I'm gonna do. You know, I don't have to score every night as long as I'm getting rebounds and making the extra plays. You know, that's what I want to bring to the table.
You had the one dunk. I think Krivas had one too. Where following up guys' misses. I mean, do y'all have a feel for each other, or is it just like instinctual out there when you're doing something?
I mean, with Arizona basketball, we all family. You know. Between the summer and now, we've been doing a great job of building our chemistry, you know, on and off the court. So that's just what y'all seeing now, and like it's still the beginning. So it's only gonna get better from there.
Did it feel like you were only out there for 19 minutes, or did it feel more than that?
I mean, the game come so easy. Being around great players, it's like time just flies. So I don't really pay attention to how long I'm out there. It's more of like just how much pressure that they relieve off of me when I'm out there, you know.
Keshad Johnson going to be a very important piece to this team moving forward in the post, and already off to a very nice start for the Arizona Wildcats. We mentioned that he had 3 steals, but how about the leader in steals, KJ Lewis?
Tops, and his pass stolen away by Lewis. Off to Bradley. Lay it up and good. Jaden Bradley with his first 2 points as the Wildcats on an Arizona steal.
I think between Kylan Boswell, who we haven't talked about enough because, Kylan Boswell on the ball defense is amazing. Between him, Jaden Bradley, and KJ Lewis, just those 3 guys on ball defense. And no disrespect, Caleb Love is also a good defender. I think those 3 guys are excellent defenders. It's just going to be really difficult, I think, for a lot of teams. Maybe not so much today. You got a lot of 5 stars over there on the other side. But most teams this year, that pressure that those guards are going to put on ball handlers in the perimeter is going to be really tough to get around.
KJ Lewis in his first game, 5 steals, as I mentioned, 4 assists, just really looking like a guy that can – and that was the thing I think that stood out, and I mentioned this on Monday, that stood out to me in the opener was just not only his ability to play defense, but his ability to kind of facilitate offense at the other end of the floor. I mean, 8 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and 5 steals. If he continues to stuff the stat sheet like that, KJ Lewis is going to be a very, very he played 18 minutes. I could see those minutes going up for sure for him if he continues to affect the game like that.
Some guys want to get on the highlights. Some guys want to be YouTube superstars. And other guys just want to win. Doesn't matter what it takes, DK. It doesn't matter. You just make the right basketball play. And this team that Tommy Lloyd's put together is chock full of those guys. You talked about Keshad Johnson, KJ Lewis, both those guys, epitome of just team first guys. Doesn't matter what you need. You need me to go out and play power forward, I'll do it. You need me to go out and take the point guard on full court, I'll take care of it. So really team first guys. And when you've got this deep of a roster, that's most important. It's when everybody's just all bought in and doing what's best for the team in any given moment.
All right, you mentioned the number 5. The line on this is 5.5. Should we take that? Should we lay that?
Tucson, what are some of today's best bets? Will the Cats beat the spread? It's time to look at some of today's best bets. Brought to you by Desert Diamond Sportsbook, Arizona's best bet.
All right, it is the Arizona Wildcats in their second game of the season. They are the underdog tonight in this game. It is a 5.5-point spread in favor of the Duke Blue Devils. J-Dub, what are you looking at on this spread here?
It's so hard early in the season to pick between 2 really, really talented teams. But I will go ahead and bet money with my heart today, DK. And I like Arizona's chances. I like Arizona's chances just thinking of it clinically. I think that they have a very, very strong team. But the fact that they took the summer trip, the fact that they've been around each other so much, I just like this group. I think they really have this is the exact kind of group that you want to go into a hostile environment like that. So I will take the 5. In fact, I will say Arizona wins this game by 4 points.
Wow. Okay.
4 points.
Wins by
Win.
4 points.
Outright, 4 points.
All right. I guess I'm a traditionalist, so I got to see it to believe it. You need to prove it to me in a road environment like this before I'm totally on board with what this team. Again, I liked what I saw. They looked very good. They've looked good in really these 3 games that we've seen from them. But going into Duke and playing and winning there is a different story. So I am going to take Duke and lay that 5.5 in this game. I'm not saying that Arizona might not win, but I would definitely lay those points.
I could
there.
see Arizona winning by 20, Duke winning by 20, or both teams going to quadruple overtime. I think that's this kind of game. It's so early in the season. It's hard because there's so many young players involved. It's a big moment, so we'll just kind of have to wait and see.
All right, so J-Dub's taking Arizona plus the 5.5. I'm taking Duke minus the 5.5. Now, the over-under on this one, J-Dub, is 154.5. It was 153.5 on Monday night, and that obviously covered famously.
So
This
that's
game,
like 78 to 76.
Yeah, I still think Arizona is going to score in the 80s. I mean, I don't know that this is going to be a low scoring game. So I'm going to play the over on that.
I will say the under. And the only reason I say is because I think that there's going to be first nationally televised big time college basketball game for a lot of these players ever. And when you come to that situation, some guys shine, other guys might foul out, as you just mentioned, happened to some of the freshmen for Duke last game out. So I think there's going to be, I think it's going to be a hard fought defensive matchup more than anything. Both these teams can score big, but when you get 2 major programs like this together early in the season, in my experience, there's a lot of. I would not be surprised to see the team shoot in the mid-40s, low 40s range, and maybe have a few more turnovers than they normally would, just because nerves are going to be high. It's a big-time college basketball game tonight. So I will say under, probably something not too far under. Like, low 70s is what both the teams will score.
Not bad. All right, so we're absolutely in the disagreement on this one here.
That's fine.
So we'll see how it turns out in about 4 hours or so. J-Dub's taking the Wildcats plus 5.5 and the under. I'm taking Duke minus the 5.5 and the over on this one tonight.
Those are today's best bets. They are brought to you by Desert Diamond Sportsbook, Arizona's best bet.
All right, let's let you know at least who we believe Tommy Lloyd is going to put out there to start this game tonight.
The foundation of a great college basketball team begins with the starting lineup. Today's starting lineup is brought to you by Rockin' K, a master plan community designed by nature.
All right, it'll be 3 guards again. Now, we weren't sure what Pella Larson's status was going into the opener against Morgan State, so we did not have him in our starting lineup. We had, I believe, Jaden Bradley, but it was, in fact, Pella Larson back. So
He
we'll
looked
start
great,
with,
by the way. He looked
did.
great.
So we'll start with Pella Larson at guard, 6'5", 215-pound senior out of Nacka, Sweden. Had 15 points and 15 minutes in the opener. A very efficient start to his senior season.
Oh, man, I mean, like, we've talked so much about the Arizona team today, DK. We haven't even talked about Pella Larson. I mean, I love Pella Larson. I love his style, love his game. He's such a great defender. Just, again, another team-first guy, whatever it takes. Really happy to see him back on the court. He looked, I know he had a little bit of a lower extremity issue in the preseason, but he looked like he was moving around pretty good. A couple open court steals there. I love Pella Larson. That's all I got to say.
At the other guard for the Arizona Wildcats, it's going to be Caleb Love. Caleb Love, 6'4", 205-pound senior out of St. Louis, Missouri. He needs just 12 points to get to 1,500 points on his career. And we mentioned that this is not his first rodeo at Cameron Indoor Stadium. As a freshman, he scored 25 points. This is actually his, I believe, 7th game against Duke.
Yeah.
He scored 25 as freshman at Cameron. He scored 18 at home against the Blue Devils. His sophomore season, he scored just 8 points at home, but then came back and scored 22 at Cameron Indoor Stadium. And then he put up the 28 against Duke in the national semifinal in his sophomore season. And then last year was kind of, I guess, maybe a microcosm of the struggles that he had. Last season, he went 5 of 15 at the game at Duke and only scored 12 points. And then he went 3 of 12 against the Blue Devils at home and only scored 11 points. So he is going to be chomping at the bit to get back in and have a chance to really show against the Blue
He's a gamer, so he's going to be there. He's going to show up. I think he's got a good guard play around him, so he doesn't have to have too much pressure today.
He is all-time. They lost both those games last year, so all-time he is 4-3 against the Duke Blue Devils. At the other guard again, Pelle Larsson. At Kylan Boswell. At the point guard, 6'2", 200-pound sophomore out of Champaign, Illinois.
Beast.
Had a career-high 18 points in the opener. At the forward position, it'll be Keshad Johnson, 6'7", 225, senior out of Oakland, California. And we read you just his line, 14 points, 7 rebounds, 3 steals, 3 blocks in the opener, just all over the place for this team. And then the man in the middle, Umar Ballo, 7-foot, redshirt senior out of Kulikoro, Mali, shot 65% from the floor last season. We definitely want to see that again from Umar Ballo. Played just 15 minutes in the game the other night, but efficient at 6 of 8 shooting. He scored 12 points and grabbed 6 rebounds to go along with 2 steals and a block. Your head coach in his third season, Your head coach in his third season is Tommy Lloyd.
That is your starting lineup for today's game. The starting lineup is brought to you by Rockin' K, a master plan community designed by nature.
And Tommy Lloyd, I believe now 62-11 in his career at the University of Arizona.
That's a lot of wins.
Yeah, it is. All right, that's going to wrap up the Meridian Wealth Management Arizona Tip-Off Show. We will be back with you after the game. Tip-off of Arizona. Number 12, Arizona, and number 2, Duke is at 5 o'clock. The network's going to take over here in about 5 minutes with Phil Brame and Ryan Hansen. Enjoy the game, everybody. Bear down, Arizona.
This hour of the Meridian Wealth Management pregame show is brought to you by Broadway in Tucson, Dave & Buster's Tucson, Dorado Rock, First Choice Pools, The Good Feet Store, Jack Furrier Tire and Auto Care, O'Reilly Chevrolet, Ram Plumbing, Restaurant Supply Store, Right Way Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing, Rocking KA Master Plan Community Designed by Nature, University Termite and Pest Control.
The savings are electric. Now at Royal Kia. Go electric and save big when you lease EV models like the Kia Niro EV for $159 a month with $49.99 due at signing. Or lease the Kia EV6 for $299 a month with $2,500 due at signing. Looking for fuel efficient? Lease the 24 Kia Forte for $186 a month with $29.99 due at signing. Plus, save even more when you trade in a vehicle. Niro K28642, EV6 K2903.